BetterHelp is probably the most famous online therapy service in the world. They have over 374,000 active users on their platform in the US, and the company has been in operation since 2013. But if you look up BetterHelp on YouTube, you will find numerous videos exposing the corruption and problematic truth about this company. The controversies are not only many, but across the spectrum, from data leaks to honestly absurd therapist behavior. But amidst all of this, there's dozens of high-profile content creators still being paid to promote this service here on YouTube. So why does everybody hate BetterHelp? And why are they still here despite everything? Okay, so if you are watching this video, you have probably heard of BetterHelp because they have been sponsoring content aggressively on YouTube for what feels like forever. They've worked with literally the biggest creators on the platform, and in many cases, those were creators who, in my opinion, have pretty good taste in the kind of sponsors that they take. Polygon described BetterHelp as one of YouTube's most prominent sponsors. But if you've seen a video sponsored by BetterHelp recently, you've probably also seen the negative comments in the comments section. Now, when we did the research for this video, we couldn't find out exactly when they had most recently published sponsored content. But we got an email from them asking if we would be interested in working with them just a few months ago. We said no to that email, but we did something that I think almost no other YouTuber has done. And we signed up for BetterHelp with our own money to see what this service was actually like. All right, so here we are. So this is the website that when you just click on the BetterHelp website, this is what you get. The reason why we decided to do this is because we wanted to give this service an honest chance. Because I think that when a company gets a ton of negative press online, it is very easy for the internet to gang up on them and cancel them, because that's just what mob mentality sometimes does. Basically, all the recommendations, like who referred you to BetterHelp, are like, but in the process of signing up for BetterHelp, something happened. This is crazy. Select the YouTube channel that you've worked. Oh my God, am I on here? Oh my God, I'm on here. Oh my Lord. Yes, that is me realizing in real time that I have also been sponsored by BetterHelp and that I forgot. We've got some explaining to do. All right, so before you click away from the video, we actually considered not making this video because there was kind of a conflict of interest, right? But we went ahead with it because I think that I accepted that sponsorship for probably the same reasons that a lot of other creators do. And we felt that that insight would be kind of valuable to telling this story. Because from a purely ideological perspective, I really like the idea of BetterHelp. Instead of me promoting some random supplement that doesn't work or a water bottle that smells like watermelon or something, this was an opportunity to promote a service that actually helps people. And sadly, YouTube sponsors are usually not great, so this felt like the closest thing that I would get to a win-win. At the time of me taking this sponsorship, I did some Googling, and I did find that there were some data leak issues at the time that I was negotiating with them, but my honest perspective was, all right, okay, they're not perfect, but hopefully they are on the road to being better. And I know that there's no excuses here, but I was also running 2 YouTube channels, renovating a trailer, living with my in-laws with a baby on the way. I didn't exactly have the time or the team to vet the brand deals that I was taking at the time. And so yeah, I probably made a mistake there, but I wasn't the only overworked, burnt out content creator making that same mistake. So no, I didn't actually use BetterHelp when I did this promotion either. I made a sort of educated guess that it would be fine because I had been to therapy in the past and I liked it and it really helped me. And so it was something that I believed in regardless of the platform that it was happening on. And that was a bad decision. So today we have decided to look into this company in earnest and actually use their service to see what is going on with this company and to better understand how we have gotten to this point. BetterHelp was launched in 2013 under a telehealth model, and even at the time, the idea of being able to connect with a therapist via video or phone call was not exactly a new idea. However, since BetterHelp's launch, we've seen a pretty dramatic rise in the popularity of these services, especially in the US. A big reason for that is the accessibility piece. BetterHelp and these other companies have made the process of connecting with a therapist a lot easier through their website and mobile apps, but BetterHelp is definitely the most popular. BetterHelp's success seems to be mostly hinged on their marketing budget. This company has spent literally millions and millions of dollars promoting themselves through mostly influencers. And I'm not talking about just like a few million. They spent almost $25 million in the first quarter of last year alone. And especially in those early days, this was a pretty new way of advertising, especially for something like a therapy service. The combination of a pretty sensitive subject matter being promoted using word of mouth through influencers that people trusted probably got a lot of people into therapy for the very first time. And if BetterHelp had been the kind of service that they needed to be at that moment, we probably wouldn't be making this video. But as you know, people's experience on BetterHelp was less than ideal in many cases.
Only way to contact them, the licensing, the state licensing board, is through Facebook.
Oh, wow.
There have been a lot of terrible experiences with BetterHelp therapists. People have alleged getting ghosted by their therapist.
Weekly video sessions for 5 months. Absolutely loved her. We're supposed to have a video session and I showed up to my video session and she wasn't there. She missed the next 3 video sessions. She full on ghosted me.
Therapists being wildly unprofessional.
I was just kind of complaining about the fact that I was trying to buy a house and it was stressful. And then at one point she was like, well, it sounds like this housing thing is stressing you out. Have you ever considered giving up? No, I mean, actually, now that you mention it, I have considered giving up.
And the reason why this was so common on their platform is because of the way that they hire their therapists. While BetterHelp might not have been an innovator in the technological sense of bringing therapists to people through remote technology, they were more of a pioneer of contract employees in the health space. Because one of BetterHelp's biggest selling features is, of course, the fact that they are cheaper than most traditional practices. The way that they are able to do this is by changing the relationship between the therapists that provide the service and the employers who hire them. Similar to how Uber drivers are not actually employees of Uber, BetterHelp doesn't actually employ these therapists. Every individual therapist on BetterHelp is an independent contractor hired by the hour. Private practice therapists will often use a bunch of other sites like BetterHelp to get enough hours, but this does mean they're entirely responsible for their own sick days, health coverage, and work-life balance. Now, this is not a new idea anymore, and in many cases it can work well, but there have been more than a few instances where it didn't. For example, this guy went to BetterHelp seeking out an LGBTQ+ friendly therapist. This is the perfect application for a BetterHelp type service, right? Because who knows what his situation is. Maybe he's living somewhere where this is not socially acceptable. Well, somehow he got paired with a Christian therapist who allegedly told him he should just try and be straight instead. And if you are wondering how this could even happen, this now deleted line from their terms of service in 2018 says it all. We do not control the quality of the counselor services, and we do not determine whether any counselor is qualified to provide services, as well as whether a counselor is categorized correctly or matched correctly to you. It's a very poorly written sentence. And look, making sure that the therapists on your platform aren't just a bunch of wankers feels like just the bare minimum for a therapy service, right? Well, thankfully they have done some damage control since there and made it quite clear that they require background checks and licenses for all their therapists. But in many ways, the damage is kind of done at this point. BetterHelp is known for bad quality therapy, which is not good for them or the content creators who promoted it without actually trying it. And if you've seen any other videos on this subject or you've followed this story in any way, you've heard tons of these horror stories. But what is it actually like to use BetterHelp? Well, I've used BetterHelp for real over the last month and done multiple sessions with my own real issues, and my experience was interesting. Okay, let's follow some prompts. In the sign-up process, I was able to make a bunch of clarifications for the type of therapist that I wanted. This is apparently quite standard, but I had not experienced it in my previous therapy. All right, I've been matched with a therapist. I was matched with a female licensed clinical social worker, which is a little different than a therapist in some ways, but still a professional. This happened very quickly. Like I packed up the camera because I was like, okay, I'll wait until the thing gets approved, and boom. I made my membership and got my thing submitted at 10:27, and I had a live session available with my therapist in 30 minutes. In her bio, she had a bunch of keywords that included tags that I had mentioned in the intro package, which at least gave me an idea of where we were at, but it also felt a bit like she was entering keywords on like a YouTube video post, like she was hashtagging her profile to appeal to more people. Like the categories of stuff that she had on there was pretty broad. Then it was time to meet her. Hi. My first therapist was present. She listened to me talk, and while she wasn't exactly brimming with thought-provoking responses, she was there and responded appropriately. I then switched therapists within the app and had another 2 sessions with a different therapist just to try it out. And honestly, the experience with both was professional and I would say pretty uneventful. Not exactly a headline-worthy experience, right? In our research, we found stories of therapists talking about being overworked and underpaid on the platform, and I actually asked my first therapist about this, and she said that her experience was generally pretty good. She actually preferred using BetterHelp over other services. But she also did say that she was on multiple platforms and that this resulted in a lot of work. She was very busy. So the experience was good enough, I would say, right? Across the board, it wasn't bad, it wasn't tremendous. But what I was surprised by was the cost. The cost is $105 per week, charged every 4 weeks. And this includes a weekly live session and text, audio, and video messaging whenever you like. So, wow, okay. This whole business model is supposed to make therapy more affordable, but at $104 Canadian a week, this is cheaper than some official alternatives if you go to a session every single week to make it worth it, because they bill you every single month regardless of how many sessions you've had, which feels a little tricky, especially if you're not able to schedule an appointment when you need one. Now, my experience was pretty good, and it's better than nothing for a lot of people who especially don't have access to these kinds of services where they live. But the truth here is that the service itself is not the problem. It's the company. This is just a classic example of a publicly traded, massive corporation trying to be human and failing miserably. BetterHelp was acquired by a company called Teladoc in 2015. This company has continued to acquire companies that run the gamut in the health and mental health well-being space. My mouth. Don't cut that out of context. This company has acquired a bunch of companies within the health space, and their focus is very clearly about gaining market share and growing their company's stock, which has ironically tanked. And this proves for me perfectly that therapy is a service that fundamentally does not work within the confines of a publicly traded company. We're applying the same business model of DoorDash and Uber to people's health and well-being, which is just like an objectively bad idea. If your DoorDash order goes to the wrong house, it's kind of a bummer, but if your therapist up at their job, the experience could be life-changing. Fundamentally, I do really think that the concept of BetterHelp is a good one, but they just dropped the ball completely. Many people's biggest fears with going to therapy is that their therapist is going to be some kind of unqualified hack, or that their session is going to be leaked to their family and friends or something. And yeah, a bunch of people have probably used this service and had pretty good experiences, but there's been enough bad headlines about this company that it's unfortunately ruined the batch. And probably the most frustrating thing about this is that they could have salvaged this by following the very principles that a good therapy practice requires. If they were honest about their failures and they listened to the needs of their clients, they probably could have made it work. But every time that BetterHelp gets called out for data leaks or sketchy hiring practices or whatever they're being canceled for this time, they don't address the root of those complaints, which is a fundamental disconnect from what therapy is supposed to be for people, and instead They just believe that they can grow their way out of this problem by just getting more money. They'll somehow be able to solve the problems of a bad service. And content creators like me have been caught up in this whole mess because we're kind of like the Wild West of advertising still in many ways. Myself, along with a literal million other creators it seems like, have partnered with this company, holding on to the fundamental good idea of getting more people into therapy, only for it to sour in the worst possible way. As somebody on Reddit put it, really I think content creators should only partner with low stakes companies. If you're partnering with HelloFresh or MeUndies and later find out that it's not ethical, oh well, it's just a meal kit or a pair of panties or whatever. If you partner with a mental health service that proves to be unethical, you've potentially damaged people more than they would have been had they not sought out help at all. And the worst part is, there's a lot of other services now that probably do this a lot better, but you don't know the name of them because they don't have the aggressive marketing budget that BetterHelp does. We've got some resources linked in our sources document that you can always look at. It's always linked in the description of our videos, but we'll also link a few of our favorites in the description separately too. In Canada, for example, Ally Therapy is a solid, affordable option with vetted therapists on board, but these alternatives aren't talked about as frequently in mainstream media because they don't rely on influencer marketing. And nowadays, a lot of the same things that BetterHelp is supposedly so innovative for are offered by most therapists. Online therapy is very common as long as you have an internet connection, and you'll probably get a much better experience because you're not going to be talking to a therapist that's indirectly connected to some large-scale shareholder organization. And a great way to locate an awesome therapist that isn't on YouTube is by approaching an institution that you trust, like your school, your university, or your workplace. Many of these places will have a system for these kinds of requests and might even be able to set up some sort of financial assistance for you to get on board. A huge thank you for sitting through this video and your patience with us as a channel. We are continuing to grow and make mistakes along the way, and your understanding makes a huge difference. So if you are subscribed and you want to stick around, we'll release another video every single week until we burn out. Okay, there we go.